If you didn't hear me say it once, welcome everybody. There it is again. My name is Alma, and I'm excited to lead practice for us tonight. Any first timers? What? Raise your hand with pride. Yes. Oh wow. Okay. 2. Anybody else? Okay. Welcome. 3 times. Welcome. That's special. Well, I'm one of the leaders that guides practice on Mondays. Today, it's about Zen practice and Buddhism. So that's what we are creating. Any questions, any comments, shares before we continue?
I have a question about their awareness and what one might think of while one's being aware of sensations.
Awareness when you're thinking versus when you are perceiving sensations, experiencing sensations. Yes, yes. One of my favorite topics. I previously shared with some of you that I practice Reiki. I'm a Reiki master. One of the things that I teach in the first level is how to come back to your subtle system, which is your senses. A lot of us are in our head most of the time, all of the time, which means we get easily confused and we miss on the opportunity to use our senses, sensations. My throat says intuition, perception, to tap into life events at a level that you're fully present. Sounds familiar? When we are practicing awareness, you might think third eye chakra, enhance intellectualization, rationalization of what I'm perceiving. We could tap into that. Some of us tap into the world of colors, images when we are meditating, right? However, when we tap into the subtle system, there's sensations that you might perceive that in other instances you miss out on. I usually think about animals and how animals use their senses to be ahead of the game. For example, like today's earthquake. Did anybody felt it? I didn't, but there was an earthquake today that was significant enough to be announced on the radio because we have many. Animals will be ahead of nature and, finding refuge And humans might be on their phone, when the experience hits. So when I think about that, I think about how humans also are sentient beings, and we don't tap into that system a lot. Many of us maybe have tapped a little more because we've been practicing meditation, and then you get present to, and that's how I guide meditation and Reiki. Sensations, emotions, presence, thinking about a loved one, colors, smells. Sometimes you get present to all of that when you are in a space of awareness. And if you incorporate your body, meaning your breath and your posture, you can definitely tap into what I'm talking about. Now, the challenge for me is not collapsing both. Because then I'm in the sensation, and then I go into my consciousness, and then I want to feed the experience, evaluate it, and then narrate it, potentially trigger inspiration, and then I go into engaging in my thoughts, and then I kill it, right? So here, what we're tapping into is body posture, breathing, body posture, awareness. So we are trying to combine a little bit of both. However, for me, like I expressed, the challenge is I'm collapsing. The way I describe awareness is your outside world and your inner world combined. You can hear the birds, you can hear your thoughts in the same space. Maybe feel your inspiration or whatever might trigger an emotion. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Anything to add? Anything to remove from what I said? Cancel that. Perfect. I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about nothing. I want to talk to you about nothing. Okay? So I'm taking this from Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And this is Informal Talks on Zen Meditation and Practice by Suzuki. Believing in nothing. In our everyday life, our thinking is 99% self-centered. Why do I have suffering? Why do I have trouble? I discovered that it's necessary, absolutely necessary, to believe in nothing. That is, we have to believe in something which has no form and no color. Something which exists before all forms and colors appear. This is a very important point. No matter what God or doctrine you believe in, if you become attached to it, your belief will be based more or less on a self-centered idea. You strive for a perfect faith in order to save yourself. But it will take time to attain such a perfect faith. You will be involved in an idealistic practice and constantly seeking to actualize your ideal. You will have no time for composure. But if you're always prepared for accepting everything we see as something appearing from nothing, knowing that there is some reason why a phenomenal existence of such and such form and color appears, then at that moment you will have perfect composure. When you have a headache, there's some reason why you have a headache. If you know why you have a headache, you will feel better. But if you do not know why, you might say, "Oh, I have a terrible headache." Maybe it is because of my bad practice. If my meditation or Zen practice were better, I wouldn't have this kind of trouble. If you understand conditions in this way, you will not have perfect faith in yourself or in your practice until you attain perfection. You will be so busy trying that I'm afraid you will have no time to attain perfect practice. So you might have to keep your headache all the time. This is a rather silly kind of practice. This kind of practice will not work. But if you believe in something which exists before you had the headache, excuse me, and if you know the reason why you have the headache, then you will feel better naturally. To have a headache will be all right because you are healthy enough to have a headache. If you have a stomach ache, your stomach is healthy enough to have pain. But if your stomach becomes accustomed to its poor condition, you will have no pain. And that is awful. You will be coming to the end of your life from your stomach trouble. So it is absolutely necessary for everyone to believe in nothing. But I do not mean voidness. There is something, but something is something which is always prepared for taking some particular form. And it has some rules or theory or truth in its activity. This is called Buddha nature, or Buddha himself. When this existence is personified, we call it Buddha. When we understand it as the ultimate truth, we call it Dharma. And when we accept the truth and act as part of the Buddha, or according to the theory, we call ourselves Sangha. But even though there are 3 Buddha forms, it is one existence which has no form or color, and it is always ready to take form and color. This is not just theory. This is not just the teaching of Buddhism. This is the absolutely necessary understanding of our life. Without this understanding, our religion will not help us. We will be bound by our religion and we will have more trouble because of it. If you become the victim of Buddhism, I may be very happy, but you will not be so happy. So this is kind of the understanding, and it's very, very important. While you're practicing zazen, you might hear the rain dropping from the roof in the dark. Later, the wonderful mist will be coming through the big trees. And still later, when people start to work, they will see the beautiful mountains. But some people will be annoyed if they hear the rain when they are lying in their beds in the morning, because they do not know that later they will see the beautiful sun rising from the east. If our mind is concentrated on ourselves, we will have this kind of worry. But if we accept ourselves as the embodiment of the truth, our Buddha nature, we will have no worry. We will think, now it's raining, but we do not know what will happen in the next moment. By the time we go out, it might be a beautiful day or a stormy day. Since we do not know, let's appreciate the sound of the rain now. This kind of attitude is the right attitude. If you understand yourself as a temporal embodiment of the truth, you will have no difficulty whatsoever. You will appreciate your surroundings, and you will appreciate yourself as a wonderful part of Buddha's great activity, even in the midst of difficulties. This is our way of life. Anything to say about that?
guess I'm not really fully understanding the connection between believing in the nothing in the book with the example of the headache and the hands.
Do you have a headache? You got a headache thinking about it. Yeah.
What does it mean to you?
Let me give you some context. Last week, some of us were talking about how when you are meditating, there might be moments when you are in the zone. You're like aware of your body, maybe present to the sensations, listening to the birds. And in those moments, some of us declare it as freedom. I describe it as space. Some of us have a tendency to find a way to fill out that space almost immediately. And our mind was made to think. So to think that we're going to reach a point where your mind is blank, probably for like 3 seconds. However, the flow or the flood or the wave of thoughts is going to come. In those moments of space, we were describing it, for some of us come really quick and they go really quick. For some of us, they expand, we're able to stay a little longer, and in the moment we declare victory, it's gone. So that's why we practice beginner's mind, to start all over again. In the sense of experiences, having a headache. Anybody here thinks a great experience to have a headache? Anybody of a fan of being in pain? No? Whatever. Most of us are, what's the term? Hedonism? Looking for pleasure, avoiding pain? Hello, human behavior, right? We're going to run to the other side. Give me the fix. What do I do to get rid of it? So our immediate tendency is going to be either push, aversion, or some of us, might be in the space of like fitting into it and looking into it, whatever works for you. But in that sense, when we go into the space of feeding our thoughts, grasping into the experience as such, as if it will be forever in your life, then we cause suffering for ourselves. We declare it a negative experience. And in that moment, there's no openness, there's no space to declare nothing about it. In the book, the invitation is to declare that you have a healthy body, that you're able to experience pain, because if your body will be accustomed to pain, then you wouldn't even be noticing discomfort. You will be uncomfortable. And that will be your state of being. So here the invitation is to create that Buddha nature, to also see the good, or the word that I wanted to say was in Spanish, but including the fact that for some of us, the experience of rain might be negative, when in fact for others, they love the smell, they cannot wait for the flowers to benefit from it. So it's always the perspective and the focus. Either you're focused on the discomfort, or you sit in the discomfort. Because in the moment where we create that space meditating, I guarantee you there's a sense of relief, starting with your nervous system, and definitely finishing with your brain, your thoughts, and the sense of space might be even allowing you to relieve that headache. Why was I sitting in the first place? Or you might be in the space of, let me go get another headache because I need more pain in my life. I don't know. Choose. Did I answer your question?
I think so. I think it's wander on it a little bit more.
Yes, and that's why I brought it up. Because sometimes you will see it as silent meditation. Sometimes you will see it as Zen or zazen, which means seated meditation. And like Jeff will say, there's nothing to win here. There's not going to be magic happening. You know, we kind of get fixated in the fact that something is going to be attained. There's going to be a result, and we get attached. So the topics that I'm tapping into are, detachment or non-attachment, and a little bit of nothing. But that concept is really, really hard to grasp because I was declaring it as a little freak out moment last week when we were talking about how some people are so attached to their identity and ego that thinking that we are going to reach a point of nothing, it's almost alarming. Because what am I going to do with that space? Like, what am I going to do if I don't have a headache? Like, what am I going to do if I'm in a toxic pattern? What am I going to do with that time? Nothing. Thank you for being here. Anybody else wants to contribute? Good. I saw him first.
So, on the similar question, I also had a hard time understanding the author's intentions of using the word nothingness. He made a distinction between experiencing or having belief in the nothingness and not confusing it with void. It is not voidness.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's a distinction that I'm not familiar with.
So, thank you, because that's what I'm referring to, having a little freak out moment. When you think about having nothing in your life, you might feel empty. Voidness, emptiness. Lack of. Missing. How does that sound? For most of us are like, what do you mean? I don't even grasp it, because it's definitely triggering for our ego to believe that all we have is now, all you need is already in this space, in this time. And coming from a Zen perspective, we're talking about detachment, like not holding on to your sensations, your emotions, embracing the fact that every moment comes in, arises, and falls in the same space. So it's kind of feeding into the concept of embracing the fact that we're impermanent. So impermanence is the invitation to accept that all we have is change. And that moment by moment, our reality is gonna change. So if the invitation is to grasp to nothing, how would you feel about impermanence? How would you feel about impermanence if you're coming from nothing, Aida? Everything I need is here. How would you feel?
Present.
Yes. The word that came to mind was complete, but it's present. And if you think about it, because you do during practices, bringing yourself back to this present moment. What am I going to eat later? Breathing in, breathing out. Did I turn off the stove? Breathing in, breathing out. Did I finish work? Breathing in. So it's that invitation of coming back to your present moment. Did I answer your question?
I think I need to ponder that as well, but yeah.
What I shared with the group last week is that, and it said it on the chapter, knowing is what I struggle with the most. Because I think, and that's what it said, until you figure out why you have that headache, you think you're going to feel better. Until you figure out what's the concept of nothing, you might think you grasp it and your practice is good. We just need to practice it. So in the next round, try to be in it. How about that? Okay, cool. Everybody's invited, not just. Are we complete? Sorry, let me check it. Okay, perfect. Yes.
I do nothing well.
Ooh, that's great. I want a shirt like that.
Nothing happens in my world by coincidence. It's really amazing. I was in the bookstore and I grabbed the book Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, and that's why I'm here this today. And it's like I read the first 33 pages, and it's amazing because I've been doing meditation for a while, but I've been doing sloppy, and he really gets into how posture, everything needs to be perfect, I think, and that's basically it. And it should be effortless, but you have to put effort to make it effortless. How's Zen like? You know?
Yes.
So is this the book that you use? Is this like one that you use that a lot? Or?
Yes.
Wow, it's like I'm finally not getting it. By not getting it, I'm getting it.
Right, exactly. You see, that's the invitation over here too. And that's the chapter, it's page 106 where I read. It's the same book.
I haven't read that part, but it's really amazing.
I definitely go back to it because of, the understanding and the concept. And like you said, it's a little bit more structured. Obviously here, at least for me, leading this practice, the invitation is to read from different teachers so that way we ponder in different concepts and then we expand. And always going back to, like you said, structure practices. So that's why I'm also bringing up the concept of nothingness. And it's one of the most complex ones.
So I was all concerned about not having the right form and all this for a while, and then later on says if you have great difficulties sitting, that's going to be a big advantage because
you're going to take on the practice, right?
You're going to take on the practice more seriously and surpass those for whom it comes easily. So that kind of took the load off my shoulders.
Yes. I think somebody described that for me after, practicing together, like learning how to be comfortable in the discomfort, pretty much. So it's kind of like the same concept. In Reiki, we call it transcendence, but it's like I'm sad and happy in the same time. I'm comfortable and comfortable in the same moment. I'm thinking and not thinking the same present time.
And it all passes.
Exactly. And then I don't get, I don't hold on to it. It's just like the flow that we're trying to create because that's how life works in many, many ways. Anybody else? When it comes to posture, I do want to mention and thank you for being specific about that, or how the book is specific about that. I usually don't tap into how to say it because it's definitely your preference and what works for you. However, I really like what you mentioned, which is even in the discomfort, like I started feeling self-conscious, like I'm doing it right now because I have an itch and that will throw me off. Like I want to look good in front of you and not move so you think I'm like the master and the best thing ever. But honestly, I was like, okay, and then I'm on camera and I'm like, oh, it's got to be recorded. So, I'm like trying to not move a lot, but it is part of the practice and not necessarily because it's, like forcing yourself. I don't want you to get injured or like get a cramp or like, oh, I need 5 minutes after you leave so I can get out of this lotus flower. It's like, no, it's in the world of working with your posture and finding the comfort, but especially in your spine. That's the most important part, especially because we're like trying to breathe a little deeper. So that is the only focus that I will definitely mention because it is in the world of, like getting to relax and then start hunching and then like not breathing deeply. And it's also because whenever you have like a flood of thoughts, the invitation is go back to basics. Inhale and follow your breath. Exhale or even focus on your belly. Going up So it is a benefit on tapping in your sensations, in your body, awareness. And then what I sometimes do is how I know I'm into the practice and doing it right. That's how I call it, because I judge myself. Is every moment, instead of hunching, I feel like, there's a string and I'm being pulled. I'm so proud of myself, because I'm like working on that posture. But it is finding comfort. It is when I surrender that I perceive that effect happening, kind of like how you were describing, right?
Yeah.
So that will be my super speech about posture for our next section, okay? Any comments about what I said? Okay. Let's tap into nothing. questions, comments, complaints, concerns? Coming from the world of nothing, what has been showing up for me in my practice lately is kind of what we were talking about with your question, which is bringing myself back to the present moment, especially when I experience overthinking, worry, concern. I really like coming back to my own body. And even though it's not necessarily, focusing your side either with your eyes a little open or like eyes closed with formal practice, whenever I'm overthinking, I sometimes do a body scan. So I focus on my feet, ankles, legs, knees, thighs, hips, and I start going up and kind of bring me back to my body awareness, my posture, back to this present moment. And the invitation to practice nothing is bringing ourselves back to having nothing about anything in life, especially when we start creating stories. We were having conversations and shares about how sometimes we have a thought and there's even like a part of us that recognizes we don't even identify with that thought anymore. So those are the moments where we can say, I have nothing about it. Like I'm experiencing my own thinking with a level of awareness that I didn't have before my practice that now allows me to disappear. That's what we're talking about. If during your practice you were looking for that light, maybe the light bulb, or the moment of clarity where you were in emptiness, it might not look like that, right? It might look like, look at me, I'm thinking about my own thoughts. Yes. That is awareness. Look at me, I'm spacing out during practice. That is awareness, and you're doing it right. Yay! But I didn't reach nothingness. Do you have something about it? No? Then you did. Are you heavy and significant about your practice right now? If you said yes, drop it. Leave it crave in my eyes. However, validation is not what we're seeking. Our own Buddha nature and recognizing our greatness is what we're practicing here. Whatever happened and whatever didn't happen in the same space. Whatever I did and whatever I didn't do in the same space. Everything life gives me, everything life takes away from me in the same space. Questions or comments about that? Yes.
Would you see that as an example of codependent arising?
Say that. Say a little bit more about that.
Well, the Buddha once dreamed he was a butterfly. When he awoke, truly did not know whether he was the Buddha dreaming he was a butterfly, or the butterfly dreaming he was a Buddha. When the Buddha attained enlightenment, so it said, he touched the ground, raised his hand to the heavens, Father, Son, Yin, Yang, Mother Earth, Father, Sky. It said, all sentient beings, as they already are already enlightened.
Yes. And And that is, and you're perfectly aligned with the reading we did, because it talks about Buddhahood. It talks about Buddha nature. And that's one of my favorite topics, because for me, in creating a relationship with the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, Buddha in this case, I did get inspired by creating good thoughts, good words, and good deeds to be in alignment with a philosophy, psychology, or religion that I'm passionate about. And it's in the world of recognizing our own enlightenment. We are already enlightened, and it's tapping into that wisdom. We were saying, based on Pema Chodron's book last week, that when we tap into those moments of space, wisdom arises. All the wisdom that already lives within us, it's there, available for us.
Here,
Anything else?
Dogen school, that Buddhism. I was shocked when I went to that teaching. I can't remember the name of the monk. He's the reincarnation of King Yashar, who was the Buddhist king. He's a layman, actually, who brought Buddhism made it Buddhism the official religion of Tibet. He was a barbarous country, ruled by demons. And that was, he now practices Dogen, which is the infinite practice. You cannot conceive of it. You can't see the foundation. You are.
Exactly. Thank you. And we were
Mind
tapping
eyes.
into that.
The
Exactly.
light you're looking for is the thoughts of the projection of the mind, both deception and reception. Deception and reception. The mind is the flashlight. Meditate on the flashlight. So George Dreyfus, when his college, sold me.
Yeah.
He said Zen is stupid.
No, I love that concept. Because
Yeah.
if you think about it, it's like the way we say it in Reiki is energy goes where attention goes. So yeah, if you're like paying attention to the headache, obviously it might increase because all your attention and focus energy is there. It's almost like, where's your flashlight? You know, where is your attention? Where's your mind? You know, if you ever practice with Jeff, that is one of the props that he will give us, like, where's your mind? And guided meditations. And I really still hear that within me, because then it's almost like the body scan that I was telling you, where I'm also guiding that attention back to body, breathing, awareness.
Yeah.
I think Suzuki talks about that, big mind and little mind.
Exactly. Which is kind of like the
Well,
concept
big-
of
big
having
mind,
that.
We are all big minded.
Yeah.
It's hard to talk about non-dualistic stuff with words.
Yes.
In other terms, some might have heard it as your higher self, right? It's almost like your lower self, your higher self, you know, the observer.
Mahayana Hindu.
Exactly.
Sun, earth.
So it's a little bit of what we were practicing today, which is tapping into not having, you know, not feeding our thoughts or not having much. Instead, we're having nothing. And that's what we're here for, to keep practicing. I'm declaring it complete unless somebody else has something else to say. Nothing? Yay! We did it. Meredith,